Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and it's that time of the year again, and actually a little bit earlier than last year, where we get a look at what could be the next design of the next iPhones. These are dummy units or mock-ups that are usually pretty accurate as far as the overall design goes and the camera layout, but may have slightly different colors. Now this year, we should once again get 4 models, just like the last few years, where we'll have the iPhone 16, iPhone 16 Plus, iPhone 16 Pro, and iPhone 16 Pro Max. But currently I only have 2 examples here, with the iPhone 16 model and the iPhone 16 Pro Max model. So this gives you an idea of the overall size, and there's some differences you may have already spotted here. Now, the first thing I wanted to talk about, though, is the display, as they're largely expected to remain the same, and you can't really tell from this as this is just sort of a mock-up, like I said, but they're expected to remain the same with the dynamic island, just like we currently have. Nothing's really changing there, probably until iPhone 17. However, the displays on the Pro Max model are expected to get a little bit bigger. The displays on the iPhone 16 models are not expected to get ProMotion. However, hopefully we'll see that, but Apple seems to see that as sort of a Pro feature. But the 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max are expected to get a slight increase in the display size, from the 6.1 inch on the Pro to 6.3, and on the Pro Max from 6.7 to 6.99. But the overall dimensions of the phones themselves are expected to largely remain the same. Apple was able to add the screen size by shrinking the bezels, but we won't get a first look at that until they're released to the public sometime later this year, usually around September. The displays are also said to be more power efficient. Now, as far as the design, let's take a closer look. We'll start with the iPhone 16 model, and as you can see, obviously, it's sort of this pink color, and you'll see that we have 2 large cameras here. Apple's moving them sort of in a side-by-side fashion, so once you hold it this way, you can then take a photo that would work for maybe spatial video or spatial audio. You need those in alignment for that. So we would get that with this sort of vertical layout similar to what we've had before. And then on the outside, this is where it changes quite a bit. So we have aluminum or aluminium, and of course our regular buttons, our power sleep wake button on the one side. Below that, we could have a new button called a capture button, which would be for photos and video. You'll see the same thing here on the Pro model. It's expected to go across all models, and it could be a capacitive haptic button, and those may be on all of the Pro models as well. If we flip it over to the other side, it's largely unchanged, where we have our sort of new action button, but that's also on the non-Pro models, and then also our volume buttons. You'll see we have a SIM card tray, which is expected to be the same outside of the United States, and pretty much everything else is the same. So on the top, nothing there, and then on the bottom, the same sort of setup. So USB-C, hopefully we'll get faster speeds in the models that are not Pro this year, but of course our microphone and speaker cutout, so not really any changes there. However, the overall design or dimensions are slightly larger apparently. So if we compare the Pro model to my 15 Pro Max, put them side by side, you'll see it's slightly taller from top to bottom. It's also slightly wider, just ever so slightly. I don't even know if you can see that here, but maybe just the rim of this is slightly wider. So that's what we expect as far as the dimensions. It will get a little bit bigger, but the regular phone is expected to remain largely unchanged. And if we compare that with the iPhone 14 that I have nearby, you can see that here. So again, very, very similar dimensions, maybe slightly higher than the 14, but very similar dimensions overall. The weight is also expected to increase just a little bit. Of course, we'll get some new colors, and with the regular 16 model, those colors are expected to be up to 7 different options, with a blue, pink, yellow, green, black, white, and purple option possible. Now, Apple could change this, of course, but that's what's expected. With the Pro models, we're also expecting some new colors, maybe a rose titanium or a space black, which could replace the black titanium, or there could be something else such as desert titanium. Some of that's leaked, and maybe something they'll switch to, but we don't know 100%, of course, until they release it. The Pro models could also have an infused back, similar to the 14 or the 15 Plus models rather, where they infuse the glass with color, and they could do that with the Pro models, just sort of different colors. So I would love to see that. It has a great texture on the 15 Plus model and 15, so bringing that over to all models would be welcome. Now, again, the overall design would be very similar, but on the back we would have MagSafe, of course, but some have said that the actual MagSafe ring itself has actually shrunk just a little bit. So it would have the same capability, the same grip strength, but not necessarily the same thickness. That could allow for more room inside. So all of those are expected. Of course, we have a larger camera bump, slightly maybe, but different cameras this time around. So other than just the cameras on the regular model, the Pro model is expected to get an update with possibly a more advanced 48 megapixel sensor that's used in the 16 Pro models, and also the ultra-wide is expected to be bumped up to 48 megapixels this year. The Pro and Pro Max are expected to get the 5x tetraprism zoom lens this year too, and the lenses may also have a new reflective coating to limit flaring. So those things are expected on this device. The internals this year are expected to get an upgrade just like every year with the new A18 Pro chipset, or maybe Apple will call it Bionic again. We don't really know, but it is expected to have an upgraded neural engine using 3nm technology like they have already. So just like they updated the iPad Pro, we expect similar updates here, and we may get a non-Pro version in the regular iPhone 16. So we don't really know that for sure. Apple, of course, could bring over the A17 Pro and just call it A17 in the current models, but we don't really know what they're going to do with that. But the new chipset is expected to sort of help with overall features with iOS 18 and possibly have better thermals, just like Apple updated the new iPad Pro with. So it could have graphite to help transfer some of that heat, and possibly a new metal enclosure for the battery to help with heat overall. We're also expecting an upgraded 5G modem, possibly Wi-Fi 7, and similar storage options, 256 to start, 512, and then 1 terabyte, maybe even 2 terabytes, we don't really know. Battery capacities are expected to change a little bit, where most of them are increasing by a small amount, about 5 or 6%, but the Plus model is said to shrink from the current model. So Apple's supposedly shrinking it by about 9% from the current model in the new one, and that may not matter too much with overall efficiencies, but I don't think many people want to see it actually shrunk down. Now, one final thing I wanted to try out is to show you how this fits with the new case. So we have a fine woven case here from the 15 Pro Max. Here's the 16 Pro Max sort of prototype, and you'll see it doesn't fit at all. And we're not expecting fine woven cases. It looks like Apple may abandon those, at least this year or possibly after the launch of this year's phones. But you'll see I can't fit this on here. It doesn't fit at all. You'll see there's a lot of leftover here at the bottom, and you can't really fit it on. And of course, you wouldn't have access to that button here either. But the overall power button lines up pretty closely, and then on the other side, it looks like they may have moved down the buttons slightly with the action button and volume buttons. So very similar as far as layout with an additional button, but slightly bigger overall. And so that's just a quick first look at what we can expect. Of course, we'll know more as Apple ramps up production, but we typically get these in September. So these are pretty close. Apple has to make millions of them and get them ready for everyone to pre-order. They get everything moving, and the design could change slightly. The colors could change, but these are typically pretty close to what the overall final design will look like. I'd love to hear what you think about the regular 16 models, the overall design with the new camera change, and with the 16 Pro Max or Pro models. Again, we'll expect some changes internally and then that new capture button, but everything else is largely unchanged from a physical standpoint, at least on the surface, but it looks like we could get more changes than we expect. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below, and of course I'll link the wallpaper here that's on my 15 Pro Max in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.